Hello and welcome to the Practical Spirituality Workshop. This workshop is first airing on Facebook Live on Wednesday, October 9th. So I'm so grateful for everybody who's tuning in, whether you're watching a recording of this or you're watching this live. This is a really important topic for our age, our era, our culture. And there's so many of us and so many people I've seen who get to a really high vibrational, really high spiritual point in their lives. Through meditation, through psychedelics, near-death experiences, a powerful workshop. And so when we hit these really high-level states, we feel really great. We feel love, compassion, connection, maybe have some magic or mystical things come up. But then when we go back out in the world and have to integrate, not everybody is as kind. Not everybody is as tuned in. We have to focus every day, get things done, pay bills, take care of our bodies, be grounded, use our left brains, and just be in this world in its political state, in its geological state, in its professional state. So how do we merge the two? How do we really, really make significant impact in the material world while bringing in our higher level spiritual stuff? So that's what this workshop is all about. And if you see the description as I posted right for the Facebook Live or for the Eventbrite description, you'll see it covers a lot of different topics. So the course of this workshop is I'll be sharing some general background info, why I feel this stuff is valuable for you, for the world as a whole, for your path, your journey, your profession. And I'll be going down through that list of topics that I posted in the description. If at any time you have a question, post that question as soon as it comes to mind, so you're not just thinking about it. And I promise I'll do my best to address it and integrate it with things as they're going now. So generally, after that initial introduction, what does practical spirituality mean? Like, let's really define it. Well, it means being fully true and authentic to yourself, while as highly functional in the Western material mainstream world, or any other part of the world, if you live in a hut or a cave, that it can apply there too, without getting lost, without struggling, without feeling like these two worlds are incompatible. And when you can do that, when you can connect and merge both of these worlds, you have a sense of inner peace. You have a sense of harmony, of flow, of things just working out and working well together. You can pray, you can do energy work, you can channel, you can connect deeply with spirit, you can tune into the earth, you can use synchronicity, you can meditate however, as often as you would like, and you can be as zen or as woo-woo as feels aligned to you. But if you set a goal to double your income, a goal to build a business, to get a degree, to make an impact in the world, like clean up half the ocean's plastic through the efforts of yourself or an organization you're supporting, some significant cause or goal, to be able to break those down into yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, to-dos, getting through those to-dos, and not being torn by your feelings or, oh, this isn't in flow. Because the value and beauty of spiritual flow is we can do what feels right and aligned and streamlined in each moment as we're intuitively aligned. But if we're not at that higher vibrational state, it's very easy to confuse that with being ruled by our feelings or our right brain. So being grounded, having our left brain online, being practical in this world, whether you're of it or not of it, will help you build everything that you want to build, will help you achieve all the goals you want to achieve, because you're not discarding all the progress we've made as a human race. You're not discarding great strategic ways to set goals like the SMART goal system and many others. You're not discarding things like figuring out how to make it, how to show up, how to be present, how to be of service, how to stay in alignment and in love and enjoy, even if you aren't super in love with your job, your career, for example, and how to stay so aligned that you can build your dream career, your dream business, your dream source of income or replacement for income if you want to live outside that system. And you can get aligned in such a way that the results don't matter from a spiritual surrender acceptance standpoint, but you're going to do everything you can to get those results while integrating your practices. And the key to this is how effective are you and how efficient are you? And a long time ago, I put a post up on Facebook saying the world needs a Tim Ferriss of spirituality. I'm sure there's many qualified people, but I want to step up to fill as big of a role and part of a role in that category as I can. Not just continuously doing research, experimentation, interviewing people, creating content like this video and my book, Magic is Real, and my wizard school and my site, Magical Golden Age, and stuff I post on Instagram and just the whole world of things, but really help raise our bar, help raise our standards. So if you want to get to a certain state of consciousness efficiently, there's a lot of methods out there. So Finder's Course, for example, by a friend and mentor, Jeffrey Martin, is a really, really excellent protocol with a ton of research, data, and statistics that you have a set of meditations that you rotate through. You meditate for a significant period of time. It takes biometrics and neurology measures of neurofeedback and your skin response and your heart rate, all these things. A lot of subjective information, like how well you're doing, how happy you feel. And it helps you ideally get in a state where you are out of emotional reactivity, where you can choose to feel love and blissed out, whether that means you're in the world or meditating on your own. But really, you've popped out of the reactive story mode of life. Now, I'm grossly simplifying something where there's an entire book about it called The Finders and a whole course and curriculum that's constantly updated. But that's an example of something that goes in the spiritual arena. How do we feel good and feel in inner peace and be aligned and not be pulled by influences and projections and other stories and all this stuff in the world that can trigger people who don't do a lot of inner work, or even if we do, we can get more triggered. But having something rigorous and scientific and spiritual at the same time to take you to that place where you want to go. And fitting in that 2 to 3 hours a day for that load up period, and then afterwards a maintenance period like an hour a day. And if you think about it, if you think about being practical, left brain grounded, achievement oriented, and spiritual with whatever that means to you, whatever tradition or lack of tradition or structure, framework, or maps that you have, then an hour a day isn't a really huge amount of time. Think about what you spend for your body and caring for your body, eating, exercising, resting, beyond sleeping and even sleeping. There's more efficient ways to sleep. There's more efficient ways of taking in energy or chi or prana from the world. And for the people who choose it, exploring a breatharian path. And just a note on that for credibility and disclaimers, if I mention anything in this workshop or others that you feel skeptical, unsure about, or curious about, I have a lot of references for all this stuff. I don't just say something because I think it's a cool idea, or I read an article, or I saw a YouTube video that turned out to be, fake photography. Breatharianism is a legit thing. And my mentor in that, Ray Maor, has taught workshops around the world to help people get in tune with how to be nourished by chi. And some people just experience a shift away from emotional eating, who take that type of training. Others take it all the way. There's been a lot of documentation, a lot of science, a lot of medical observation of people who said they lived off source, prana, the all, God, universe, whatever, and didn't need to eat. And a lot of that science supports it. There's actually a really neat documentary called Let There Be Light, which is extremely well done and very award-winning by another friend of mine. So if you think about the practical value of the spiritual path, and oh my gosh, I have to invest an hour in practices. I knew I had to do that, but gosh, if it's a requirement, it makes it less fun, right? Well, that's about mindset. And if you've gotten to the point in your life where eating healthy or exercising on a regular basis isn't a chore, it's something you enjoy because you feel better with it, it makes you more efficient, those things too can help you sleep better and thus pay for themselves with time, give you more energy, give you more years to your life and life to your years, then it's conceivable that since we keep saying and knowing at a deep level that we are and the world is body, mind, and spirit, that all of those should get regular attention. All of those should get regular research, regular adding to our knowledge, regular experiences, regular upgrades. So if you think your ideal spiritual day and your ideal practices are 4 to 5 hours, mantras, meditation, music, devotional work, prayer, forgiveness exercises, self-healing exercises, learning about different modalities, learning about the science, learning about the traditions, learning about crystals, doing experiments to see if they work, traveling to take workshops, that's 13 things, right? And trying to fit a little bit of those in every day with workshops who have homework and practices is not possible for most of us. Now, I myself do about 3 hours a day, but I built up to that, and it pays for itself. I used to need 8.5 hours of sleep. I do great now waking up before my alarm on 5.5. That's consistent, that's generally without caffeine. And so the time I've invested in myself, whether you call it spiritual or very sophisticated, advanced material science, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is the results you get in your life. And if you want to feel happier, enjoy life more, be at more peace, be calmer, need less sleep is always great, have better intuition to make better decisions more quickly, and lose the neuroticisms, if they exist, that have been in your system. Maybe you want to label or diagnose them. I like to call everything patterns that you can de-pattern, but we all have a different system, so I'll let you be the one who knows the most about yourself. But it makes sense to do everything as efficiently as we can. So I want to shift into the first bullet. And again, for everybody who joined new, if you have any questions or comments, please post them as soon as they come to mind, and I'll do my best to include them. So in this first bullet, if you want to figure out how to live in a golden age or heaven on earth, where life is literally the absolute best you can imagine in this timeline, for those of you who work with things like timelines and shifting dimensions, pretty woo concept, but it can be fun and useful. So what does it mean to have heaven on earth? I'm not talking about a religious description in a traditional Western Old Testament popular culture characterization. I'm talking about the best version of life and reality on earth that you believe is logically possible, however it happens. Maybe the governments of the world unify and take half their military budgets or 3/4 and invest it in cleaning up the world, sharing incredible innovations that further our quality of living, and help people open their hearts and heal from their traumas. But that's a possibility. The probability of that happening in a day is low. In a month or a year, I think is a little lower, but that's probable, right? So heaven on earth or golden age is a rational, grounded concept of the best type of world we can imagine. Now, I personally have a pretty big imagination, and I'm also quite ambitious. In Magic is Real, in my book, in chapter 13, The Future of Magic, I talk about building a new city, a city of Atlantis reborn, like the city of Atlantis of our countries, our culture, our world's past, which was the epitome of the golden age of our planet, and for those who believe or researched or know, of our galactic civilization. So what does it mean to shift the world into a golden age and to experience it for yourself? So this is really where practical and spirituality have had a schism, because a lot of people in spiritual communities, myself included, for various points of time, we could isolate ourselves, live in a bubble, be in a bubble, only talk to or watch or listen to or expose yourself to things that nourish us and keep us in wonderful states. And if something does it, well, let them be healed, or I'm not going to, pollute myself with that energy. And that's avoidance, just practically. And when I saw Marianne Williamson in person for the first time, before she announced her candidacy for president, she said, if you're a spiritual person and you want to make a big impact in the world, get into politics, get off your meditation cushion. And what she was saying there, you could take it as a projection given her career choices, but if you take it on an individual template, a customizable basis, she's saying, don't just imagine a world. Don't just imagine a world with more peace, better environment, higher quality education, better communication, more trust, more openness, more kindness and love, more creativity, basic things that I can guarantee any decent country, any decent city, it can, measure and has allocated projects and money for. But making these things happen outside of a direct, immediate circle of friends or tribe or wherever you are takes acting and working in the world, and doing so very efficiently. It might take studying global change. It might take studying group and social psychology. It might require getting a degree if you really need to do that. So when you serve and when you show up day to day in a world that you don't like, in a world where you selectively read certain news stories because others hurt you or scare you or bother you or annoy you, a lot of that's avoidance. And I myself very much try to only focus on things that relate to my expertise and some worldly knowledge things. So I'm not saying don't look at something if it's not relevant to you, don't jump into a distraction. What I'm saying is, if you really want to practically focus on your goal in the world, in your life, it's good to know what the world and how your life relates to it is in the practical, grounded material plane. So the bridge for that is the root chakra and the second chakra. The third chakra, the Manipura, solar plexus chakra, that's personal power, will, and digestion in general, right? And so having the will to act, if you're watching this and you've decided you might have that or you might be building that, having the relationship skills, the comfort to work with any person you need to work with. Maybe they're not loving and huggy and full of eye contact and compliments and kindness and nonviolent communication. But if you have to work with a certain person, a politician, for example, who might embody a completely different characterology, maybe even a person who is a materialist, a psychopath, a sociopath, who knows? How can you find a way to be at peace in your own system, get the job done, win the battle, achieve the mission, and not have to heal them or not need them to change or not think, oh, an interaction with them is going to pollute me and affect my karma, right? Because at the highest levels, if you don't know this deep down, you might have encountered it in mystery teachings. If not, I'm happy to share my wizard school with you and my book with you and my YouTube and Instagram and all the stuff where I go into this. We create our own reality. And we are, as God, Goddess, all souls across time, across space. So that person that you're judging or condemning, that characterology of an evil politician, for example, that's you at some level. That's a life you have lived, are living, are going to live based on your perspective. So you can have compassion, but if your goal is to clean the oceans and you have an economic incentive so that politician can push the bill forward and get reelected because this measure also creates jobs and doesn't build the debt of wherever it came from, then that's being extremely practical. And if your spiritual mission, if your transmission, if your purpose in this life is to clean the ocean, then you're achieving your goal without being attached. So this is where the snake eating its tail comes in, the Ouroboros. If you think about it, what does it mean to surrender attachments? Well, if you surrender all attachments, that's also being attached to certain spiritual concepts. That's being aware that, as the Kabbalion says, a major Hermetic text, the all is in all. God is in everything. Now you can flip all the stuff that I shared to the examples and the terminology that fits to you and the vocabulary that fits to you. If I use different vocabulary each time, like every version of God or Goddess or Flying Spaghetti Monster or Matrix or Source or Probability, it would just get way too wordy. So please substitute that fits your paradigm. So thinking about this, working with somebody who you don't like, getting done what you need to do, feeling joyful and inner peace at all times, and not having to eat extra stuff or smoke or drink stuff or escape or need that vacation to restore yourself, but you are in a state where you're uncorruptible and you're so pure that nothing can touch you. And you can be a fierce warrior badass. And there's so many paths to all those things. But that's what I'm talking about as far as integrating these things together with this idea of the golden age. So let's see, I don't see any comments yet. If any questions or thoughts or requests come up, please comment. Struggling with being grounded. So this is something that I think a lot of us have experienced. A lot of people where I am in the Bay Area are using psychedelics and having spiritual experiences. And there's a lot of ways that can be done right, balancing the biochemistry, working with a professional who's been trained for over a decade, led many ceremonies, knows the right dosage, knows how to help you balance your biochemistry, knows if you have any medical conditions that you should do it. And there's an ideal setting for that stuff. And MAPS and CIIS and other organizations show that data. But a lot of people don't use psychedelics properly. And even if you're not somebody who's experimented with or used well or not well or curious about psychedelics, there is still the phenomenon of getting in these really high enlightened states, having Kundalini experiences, which for some people can seem like being manic, having dark nights of the soul, which for some can seem like being depressed, and having just mystical experiences, going to India, experience telepathy, seeing levitation, affecting the weather. I've experienced all this stuff. I've had blue light come out of my hand, like physical light in front of a witness, right? I've had a lot of mystical, woo, funky things. So, telekinesis, like a lot of it. I've had materializations, things appear out of thin air near me and fall to the ground and people see it. And I've had mentors who that happened to as well. There can be some crazy stuff, right? So knowing that that's out there, knowing that you want to reach God consciousness, you want to have your third eye open, see the astral realm, see energy, live past lives, be telepathic, whatever your goal is or whatever you think might happen on the spiritual path, there's a lot that could take us from being grounded. So in the spiritual energetic map, you have the root chakra. And I teach that quite a bit in wizard school, and there's a lot of that on YouTube. Teal Swan, Aaron Doherty, myself, there's a lot of stuff about how to strengthen the root chakra, how to be comfortable in the material realm, how to feel safe, how to release trauma, all that stuff, anything related to money and survival. So I'm not going to turn this into a root chakra workshop, but if you have any curiosity or self-initiative at all, that's your path, that's your rabbit hole for being grounded. Now, there's a lot of practical solutions too. If you're coming to this from a very practical materialist standpoint and you're earlier on your material journey or your spiritual journey, you can get things like grounding blankets. You can get things like this golden wave anti-EMF shield. They have a ton of research. You can put it on, pretty much any device. And what this does is this will lower the EMFs, if not neutralize them, in those devices so they don't affect you in a negative, harmful way. And how do EMFs affect your body, your brain, your energy body, your microbiome? That research is out there too. So if that's something you feel intuitively or practically drawn to, I suggest and encourage you to look at that. There's things in this world that unground us just from our biochemistry, just from our, electrochemical makeup and chemical soup that we call a human body. Yeah, you can look at light bodies, you can look at soul matrices. If you really want to, you can look at astrology and karma and other stuff like that. But I agree with Bashar when he says, these things are permission slips. If you're waiting for your astrology chart to say, this is a good day to sign contracts, that's your permission slip, but it's also a detention slip for any day that isn't. And if you've read or listened to Autobiography of a Yogi, or you're in touch with organizations related to that group and that teaching, and that's from Paramahansa Yogananda, who was Steve Jobs' guru. Jobs gave that book to every person who came to his memorial service. Pretty big deal for the builder of the biggest tech company in the world, pointing to a mystery school like that. But they talk about a bangle, an astrological bangle. They look a little bit like this. This is something else, which I'll describe later. And these bangles are said to neutralize negative astrological influences. But if you go high up enough the ladder of awareness, if you get to unity, non-duality consciousness, an enlightened state, even for a second, you realize you are all things, including that bangle that can neutralize astrology, including all the astrology systems. And you could realize maybe you don't need astrology. Maybe you don't need it to affect you. Maybe you can reclaim that part of yourself that can know intuitively if it's a good time to sign a contract or start a relationship or move, or a lot of these general horoscope things that are shared often without deeply tuning in to the person getting the reading. I think maybe 2% of the astrology readings ever given, if not 0.2%, are actually really good, having had a number myself and studied the field a bit, just because it's not a regulated field. So as far as other ways of being grounded, I think generally you might be aware of that. What are you putting into your body? Are you feeling anxious because of what you're putting into your body or what you're not putting into your body? Are you breathing and meditating, which even from the most secular perspectives helps tonify the vagus nerve, which helps you be centered, helps your organs relax, helps your parasympathetic, your resting nervous system be at a calm state? Have you researched or do you know of little practices you can do energetically, like tapping the forehead or putting ice on the forehead to pull blood from your amygdala if you're triggered, or moving your jaw forward like that? I don't know if you heard the crack, I just cracked a bit, because especially in America, we have some of the tensest jaws and thus, interestingly enough, thinnest lips on the planet. And if you have a tense jaw, that can pull on your occiput, which is near your brainstem. And if there's tension there, if there's not good blood flow or nervous system flow, you can feel ungrounded. So there's practical and there's spiritual solutions for all this stuff. And a lot of reasons people who are deep in spirituality avoid grounding things is it might be uncomfortable to be in our bodies, to be in this material world. We incarnated here for a certain reason. We have chosen not to end our lives, most likely because we'll always have to repeat the same lessons or some other reason. So if we're in this life and in these bodies for however many decades, or if you do certain advanced practices that I could share if you DM me, over 100 years, well over, then how do you get comfortable? The path of healing. That's the path of realizing if you hold a samskara, if you hold a wound, if you hold a trigger, if you hold a trauma in your system and you get triggered, you want to escape from your body. Maybe you have a story that something terrible happened to you or it was unfair or it's because of whatever happened. But as an adult, as a sovereign being, you in this very moment can choose the course for the entire rest of your life. Now that doesn't mean like something will change like that. But just like lifting weights, if you put in the work, the time, the energy, effort, the commitment, your muscles will grow bigger and stronger, and you'll lose body fat. So if being in this body and being in this world and being grounded is difficult, if focusing is difficult, do what you need to do. To get grounded in my own system after going so far out there, from 5 sources of PTSD, 2 near-death experiences, and probably 10 closed head injuries from martial arts, I can definitely say that getting a brain scan was actually one of the most valuable things to help me be grounded. I had all the spiritual maps. I had a fair amount of biochemistry under my belt, but actually getting a clear picture of my brain from a place called Amen Clinics, which is AMEN Clinics, was so valuable because I learned how things were firing. And in the recommended treatments, which I did, I learned how to rewire my brain. And one of my favorite mentors and teachers, Brendan Bouchard, had a similar scenario. He had a closed head injury while off-roading. He became irritable and ungrounded and unfocused. He got a brain scan. He healed his brain with similar methods, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the right high-quality supplements, and good neurofeedback. And it got him, right back to peak performance. And now he's, best-selling author and giving 4-day, day-long workshops where he's just full of energy. He's called the Energizer Bunny, giving great content. He's making a great living. He's impacting a lot of people's lives, giving a lot of value, has a lot of options for how he wants to spend his time. So if there's any barrier, you think, to you being grounded, being focused, getting over, transitioning away from patterns, which maybe in the past you thought of could be ADD or depression or anxiety or bipolar or some other, disorder, maybe it's just a chain of cause and effect, and you can shift that chain and shift yourself. And that might be a bigger deal for some people and less for others. So if that's something you feel you might need help for, please reach out to me. I do mentor people one-on-one, and whether it's a message or a call or a series of calls, we're really happy to help you with your own personal, individual situation, getting as clear as you can with as much as I know, and being honest with you with things I don't know.